Welcome to G10, a place for difficult questions, uncomfortable conversations, and ideas people don't always feel comfortable discussing openly. No outrage, no shouting, no pretending to have all the answers, just questions. Today's questions concern one of the most influential stories ever told, the story of original sin. Maybe there's something obvious being missed. Maybe there are answers already out there. But for now, I'm just asking for a friend. The story of Adam and Eve is usually presented as a story about disobedience. God gives a command, humanity breaks that command, humanity falls into sin. Simple, right? At least on the surface. But once the details are examined more carefully, the situation becomes far more complicated, and perhaps the most important detail is often overlooked from the very beginning. The God described within Genesis is not presented as limited or ignorant or indifferent. God is described as all-knowing, all-powerful, perfectly good, and loving. That matters, because any discussion about justice, accountability, punishment, or responsibility must be viewed through that lens. The question is not simply, did Adam and Eve disobey? The question is whether the situation itself appears to be consistent with the actions of a loving and all-knowing God. And that is where the story begins to raise difficult questions. The first humans. According to Genesis, Adam and Eve were the first human beings ever created. No parents, no society, no history, no schools, no understanding of manipulation, no understanding of lies, no understanding of suffering, no understanding of death. These are beings completely new to existence itself. The Bible specifically says they had not yet eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, implying some lack of moral awareness before eating from it. How can someone fully understand disobedience before fully understanding good and evil? From one perspective, it resembles a moral test being given before moral understanding exists. Humans are placed into direct conflict with a being operating on a completely different level of knowledge and experience. Adam and Eve are essentially newborns in existence. The serpent is ancient, intelligent, persuasive, and manipulative. If the situation was fully understood beforehand by an all-knowing God, why were humans placed into circumstances where they were never equipped to navigate successfully? No experience, no wisdom, no understanding of evil, no understanding of psychological manipulation. They were given no tools in which to defend themselves from this superior being. From that perspective, the situation begins to feel less like a fair test and more like innocent beings being overwhelmed by forces beyond their understanding. Many people are taught a simple version of the story. The serpent lies and Adam and Eve believe the lie. Yet the text itself appears more complicated. God says, Adam will die if he eats from the tree. The serpent replies, you will not surely die. Adam and Eve do not immediately die after eating the fruit. This does not prove that the serpent was truthful, but it complicates the story and encourages deeper examination. People often respond by saying humanity was given free will. Well, fair enough, but free will without understanding remains difficult to process. If someone does not fully understand the consequences of an action, how informed is the choice really? The garden contained two significant trees, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. After Adam and Eve eat from the forbidden tree, God removes them from the garden before they can eat from the tree of life and live forever. This shows that when God truly does not want a particular outcome to occur, immediate action can be taken, which raises another question. If God had the power to prevent humanity from eating from the tree of life, why not prevent the first situation too? Especially if the outcome was already fully known beforehand. Were humans ever realistically going to succeed, or was failure inevitable from the beginning? The bigger question. Ultimately, the debate is not really about a fruit, a tree, or even a serpent. It's about justice, responsibility, knowledge, free will, punishment, mercy, and whether the events described are consistent with a God who is simultaneously all-knowing, all-powerful, perfectly good, and loving. One interpretation presents humanity consciously rebelling against God. Another presents humanity entering suffering through innocence, curiosity, and manipulation. Both interpretations emerge from the same story. Maybe there's context missing. Maybe there are answers that have not yet been considered. Maybe theologians have explanations for every question raised here. But the question remains, and perhaps more people have those questions than they are willing to admit. but they're just reluctant to say them out loud. But maybe that's wrong. I'm just asking for a friend. If you made it this far, thank you for spending a few minutes thinking with me. This has been G10, Asking for a Friend, Episode 1, Original Sin. Not because I have all the answers, but because some questions are worth asking. Until next time.